Well, hello and welcome back for another author interview here on Gimme 5 Children and Young Adult Book and Author Interviews. And today I have the honor of welcoming Cami Murdock Jensen. She is an author of young adult fantasy adventure series, the Arch Mage Series. The book we're talking about today is The First Earth. It's a young adult fantasy adventure. Of course, I want her to show us all of her books because there are more than just one. So, hey, Cami, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Elizabeth. This is exciting.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. So, which book would you like to tell us about first?
So the Archmage, I know it seems like Archmage, but it's Arch. I've decided
Archmage.
Arch enemy, Archangel, and my character's a good guy. So I went with Archmage. Seemed to make sense.
Good.
It's a 5-book series, and it starts with First Earth, which can be read as a standalone. The tagline for my series is too much adventure for one world. So
Ooh,
after
I
the
like
first series,
it.
thank you.
Yeah.
We've got Second Earth, and this is the adventure that my main character Agnes Ann Kavanagh has on our planet. And then of course we've got Third Earth for you dragon lovers out there. This is the dragon world.
Yes, awesome. I love dragons.
And then my very latest is Fourth Earth. And this one is the mystical planet where you've got all of your Greek, you've got centaurs and satyrs and sirens and all of those fun Greek characters are on this planet.
Wow, and that these are all released, right? We can get all of these on Amazon. Is that correct?
Yes, these are out. I'm feverishly working on Fifth Earth as we speak, trying to wrap it all up and put it together in a fun box series. That's my ultimate goal. I'm very excited.
Well, that was going to be my next question is, will you be putting these all into a box series? And when is book 5 coming out?
Book 5, I'm hoping will come out beginning of April.
Mhm.
Um, if all of the stars align, mostly my editor, who's very smart and very busy. You
Yeah,
know,
that is the part, right? The stars being editors, illustrators, fitting
illustrator,
everyone's schedules and life
formatter.
goes on.
Hmm.
Yes.
For sure. Yes.
So, Cami, you said the first book is a standalone book. So, will those characters at all follow into the second book?
Yes, absolutely. I always like to have the first book it can be read as a standalone, but of course those characters they follow throughout the whole series and they grow and they become more powerful and they become more my daughter read Fourth Earth. She just cried bitter tears. She's like, Mom, how could you? And I'm like, I'm sorry, honey, I'm sorry. But obviously something tragic happens. I won't give you any spoilers, but
Yeah. I know that's
I'm
hard
very
as an author myself. I know when I'm writing through the difficult parts, I'm crying as I'm writing it, and so
not the only
there's going
one.
to be those difficult parts. Yeah.
Too. I've got a tissue box next to my computer along with my notes.
Yes, yes, indeed. So, Cami, what is the main character like?
So Agnes Ann Kavanagh is the only wizard to be born on our planet since magic was banned thousands of years ago. And if that isn't interesting enough, she also survived an explosion as a baby, which left her with neuropathy pain in her legs and a scar on her cheek. So she's already got all kinds of issues she's been struggling with her whole life. And now she gets tossed, congratulations, you're now a wizard and thrown all of these magical problems. But because she's already struggled her life, she's learned some really fantastic lessons that help her succeed in the Archmage series.
And so she probably has to find a mentor, somebody to help her learn how to use these abilities that she has.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a little spoiler for you. My first book, First Earth.
Mhm.
First Earth is not our planet.
Ah, okay. I like that. Good, good, good. And how many pages do we have going there, Cami? This is a pretty good read, isn't it?
It's a fast read. I really love a fast read. I'm the kind of person who can't put a book down until I get to the end. So I like books to go quick, but it does have 320 pages in it. So it's not a tiny book. It's when I say fast, I don't mean short. I mean intense with action and fun, exciting things happening.
I love those kind of books. You know, as a young reader, I love the books that I couldn't put them down, and I was afraid that if I closed the book, somehow the characters wouldn't be okay without me until I read to the next chapter, until they were in a safe place, right?
Oh no, I left her dangling off a cliff. I have to come back.
I gotta keep reading. I can't leave her on the cliff. Exactly. So
Yeah.
how do you dream up these characters in these worlds?
Well, I've always had an incredible imagination. When I was a kid, back in the old days when we didn't have phones, we would play make-up imagination games. My brothers and I had 7 brothers, and we were just really active, running through nature and coming up with all of these great games. So imagination was never a problem for me. But Agnes is a little bit special. She's actually based on my daughter. Um, we've got a genetic defect that kind of runs through our family, manifests differently with every person. And
Mhm.
this particular daughter, when she was a teenager, started in junior high, got worse in high school. She had some kind of something going on. We didn't know what it was, but she would lose all the strength in her legs. She would just be walking and then just crumple to the ground.
Oh my
And her
goodness.
face would go just pale white, and she would just get clammy. And we discovered pretty soon it was her blood pressure dropping. We couldn't figure out why. She was so discouraged, Elizabeth. She just went to bed and stayed there for weeks. And I was like, I have to give this girl a reason to be excited about something.
Wow.
And so I was like, I'm going to write her a story, and I'm going to have her help me write it so that she has something to think about and something to look forward to. And
Wow.
so Agnes is based on my daughter.
Wow, that's fantastic, Cami. So
Hey,
you created this book out of love and involved your daughter, and it gave her something to focus on, and almost
yeah.
in her dreams then or in her imagination, she could be this have these superpowers, right?
And it gave her motivation, which is like, well, I guess I can get out of bed even if I don't feel super good today. Maybe I can make it to school today, and yeah, I can do this. And she just started getting this um belief in herself back, where
Wow.
she just didn't want to be a victim anymore.
That is incredible. Bravo, good for you. I mean, books have that power, right? They give us courage and the ability to get up and do things that we thought we never could do just by identifying with characters in the book or trying what they tried, how they were brave. So that is an
True.
amazing gift. Was it your first book ever?
No, not my first book ever. It was my first book that, see, how it worked was once the book was finished and my husband read it and my daughter loved it, wanted me to write a second one. That next Christmas, he bought me an illustrator and an editor and said, okay, it's time for you to be published. And so that's how it happened.
That is amazing. I know we all have a book inside of us, most of us, right? Some kind of little story that's creating in our head, but that
Yeah.
next step of actually sitting down and writing the book takes a lot of papa, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And that first, the first time I got edited was pretty, it was hard. You could probably relate to that. It's like, what do you mean it's not perfect? I worked on this for 4 years.
I can relate to that, Cami. My first book was just a novella, it's just a short one. I think for me, I'm like a racehorse. I'm great at the gate, getting out there and running around the first couple furlongs, and I'm like, squirrel, not here. So Making it to that last, the end is like, wow, it was great for me. But then going through the editors and having that, oh, this grammatical error here and this and that, and this doesn't make sense. And it's like, really? It made sense to me. Yeah, it's an eye opener for sure.
It is an eye opener. So after that, I thought, well, if I'm going to write the second book and the third book, I'd probably better go to some conferences and learn about what today's readers really like, what I want to do for my audience. And so that made a big difference. I improved really quickly just by learning what the market needs and what the market wants.
Yeah, because it's really not enough to just write a book. Now you have to learn marketing and who you're
Yeah.
marketing to. You have to select
Mhm.
categories and levels and yeah, there's a lot to it, right?
Oh gosh, it's a business.
It is. It really is. It's a lot of work, but it's an adventure too. Each step, I wouldn't want to miss a step. I mean, as I'm learning them, I get frustrated, but it's like, these are good. Okay, I'm growing.
Yeah,
Always
I
growing.
can do that. I think I've grown quite a bit. And here's the little bit of happiness. My daughter, we did find out what was wrong with her. Her blood vessels, they wouldn't constrict, and so the blood would go to her legs and pool there. And so
Ah,
she wasn't pumping the blood back up to her head.
hmm.
So when we figured that out, and she graduated from school and she's married now and she's pregnant with her first baby, and
Ah,
she's working.
congratulations.
I know, I'm so excited. She's working for an editor and learning about writing, and she's going to become a writer herself.
Well, that's amazing. So this
I
whole
know.
journey has opened up her career.
Right. So she's just got a great love for it, and she's really good.
Ah, that has to feel so good as a mom,
It
right?
does. It
Good
does.
for
I just
you.
feel like I was inspired to write it, and it's just been just the most beautiful journey.
So when you're not working writing books, Cami, what is a little bit about you? Did you say you had seven brothers?
I do have seven brothers.
Oh my God.
I know
Oh,
it's
my life.
growing up is
God
so
bless you.
fun. So yeah, it was fun and a little bit terrifying, to be honest.
Right.
They're they're all athletes. They're all strong. They're all mischievous. A bunch of my characters are based on my brothers too. But so um I'm heavy into the arts, just like most creative people. If you're creative in one area, you're creative in other areas too. So I teach voice lessons, and I'm a teacher we have a fantastic youth theater program for our city. We do 3 shows a year, so I get to teach music, dance, choreography. Um, I do a lot of orchestration. I have some plays for the youth that I wrote ages ago. Before Disney started putting out really good stuff for kids, there just wasn't anything out there. So we wrote our own scripts. So,
Wow, that is so fantastic. I would love to get a theater group going. That is a blast. I teach drama, just,
oh,
very little parts of it I'm in Korea, so I teach English as a second language, but improv is a great way to get the shy ones up and speaking, right? So good
right.
for
Yeah.
you.
And by nature, I'm a little bit of an introvert. So if I can go on stage and recite lines that I've already learned, that's a little less scary than talking to people.
Absolutely. I can relate to that, Cami. We have a lot in common there because as a teenager, growing up, people would ask if I was still in the room because I was so shy. And then my mother signed me up for drama because she was really worried about me. And that's, because I'm like you, an introvert by nature, but drama is amazing and it's very creative, very creative.
Oh, it's a wonderful way to express yourself without feeling judged, right?
Yes, you get to be somebody else, and that's okay.
And you get applauded for it.
Exactly. You're mean, everybody loves you. Okay.
Yeah, good job. Way to go.
That's hilarious. So you seem like you're super busy. Is there any little special activity that you like to do that's just for you activity? The me
Yeah,
time.
I have two guilty pleasures. Um, My first one is A Hot Bath with a Book. It's really great reading other people's works and not having to stress over every word I put down on the page. And then my second one is I am a little bit of a Legend of Zelda video game fan. So I will sit there and play Legend of Zelda video games. Something I don't have to think about, right? It doesn't
Right.
take
It's
a lot of
just
brain power.
mindless, right? Just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, mindless. Just push the button. I can't tell you how many people are shocked that I like to play video games. Why is that so shocking?
Hi, my son went to school to be a game designer when he started university at 17 as a game designer. And I just
Oh, wow.
I couldn't sit in front of a computer and play a game. But now he's got me into this little crypto. It's called Crypto Dragons. And, you just merge them around and little UFOs come over and rain down these new characters, and I get to open up a
Oh,
little magic box, and I'm
this
making
is so
cryptos. And I'm
good.
like, dang, well, this is fun. I can't wait to open. It's like gambling. Open the box. What will we get?
What are we going to get?
Yeah. It's like I don't need to buy a lottery now. I'm saving money.
For me, it's the puzzles. I like the little puzzle games.
Yeah. Oh yeah, putting things together. I
So
can imagine
really
with your
fun.
creative mind. Yeah, you'd be drawn
Yeah,
to that.
yeah, that's super fun.
So, what was your favorite book when you were a kid?
Oh, that's a toughie. Okay, so I went through phases. Um, I really was a voracious reader. With seven brothers, hiding in my room and reading was like a
Hiding.
saving. Yeah,
Keyword.
saving. I went through a phase where I read every horse book I could get my hands on. The Black Beauties, the Black Stallions, just everything that came out. I read it. What really turned me on to fantasy and kind of kept me there was the Dragons of Pern. You remember
Hey,
those?
yeah.
Weren't they good? Oh, they were
Yeah,
so
so
good.
good. I can't write fantasy. I'm a realistic fiction writer, so I guess I have not developed that imagination enough to be able to write fantasy, right? You have to be able to create worlds and imagine all these
Oh,
different beings, right?
people
It's
come with their
amazing.
talents, and I've got my kids are evenly split. Half of them love fantasy, and the other half are way more into the realistic fiction stuff. My youngest is so fascinated with World War II stories right now.
Wow. I
She
wonder if
just
that's
she
a
just
past life
loves
thing.
them. I don't know. I guess for her, knowing that it really happened just makes it that much more intense and realistic for her.
Wow, that is so cool. So now we know what you read when you were a child, what you liked. What's on your bedside right now that you're reading?
Uh, I'm as an adult, it's the whole puzzle thing. I love mysteries and I still love fantasy. So I'm reading all of the Harry Dresden books, the Dresden Files.
Ooh, very
He's a
good.
he's a he's a private investigator who's a wizard. So he investigates supernatural mysteries
I love the
in
supernatural
Chicago.
realm. Ah.
It's great. It's fun. Um, but like I said, I'm a fast reader, so I'll get through those pretty quick and move on to the next thing.
It's good to read other people's books because like you said, you're not critiquing it because it's not your own, and you just get to escape and you're
Yeah.
learning I find when I'm reading other people's books, it's like, oh yeah, I like that character, and that character similar could play off of this character in my book, right? So it gives you ideas as well.
Oh, absolutely. Everything that you take in is fodder for the next book.
Absolutely. So you started writing like 4 years before the first Earth came out, right? With your very first book. So was that when
Yes.
with your daughter, or when did you start writing exactly?
So in my 20s, I wrote those scripts, and I still pull in royalties every once in a while because they're great stories. I have one from Robin Hood and one about King Arthur, and I wrote the scores to those too. I was a music major, and then let's see. about 15 years later, I started dabbling with some short stories. I wrote one about paper wings, which is about a caterpillar who was too afraid to turn into a butterfly because he didn't want to struggle.
Oh,
And so a snake came out and gave him a pair of paper wings so that he wouldn't have to turn into a butterfly.
I love
Of
it.
course, yeah, it didn't work out very well for him, and eventually he had to abandon his paper wings and go through the struggle and become a real butterfly. But let's see. And after that, I wrote a book, which I'm going to come back to. It's called The Lure. It's about a supernatural forest that lures in its prey with false emotions.
Ooh, I
So
like it.
we've got these little spiders that look like gems, and then they emit this false emotion of greed. So people walk by and they see the gem and they feel greed, and so they go pick it up, and of course the spider bites them and eats them.
Ah, what a great moral and message that is too, right? Very subtle,
Right.
but I like it a
Very
lot.
subtle.
Yeah.
So that one's really fun. I did send that one to I tried to query that one.
Mhm.
They loved the concept, but my form was all wrong because it was my first attempt at something a little bit bigger than a short story.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I need to start over. And that's when my daughter was so sick. So I went with the Archmage series. And as soon as I finished that, then I'm going to come back and bring the lure back out again.
Yeah, I have a couple of movie pitches that are, like on the shelf that I wrote the first like chapter and I have a general idea where it goes, but it's better as maybe a tagline or a synopsis pitch for a potential series, but it's an adult series. So Crestwood Heights in another time. So it's got a lot of paranormal in it because I've experienced that in my own personal life. So I'm able to draw actually from my own personal experiences. So that's on the shelf too. So I understand shelf, take it off, dust it, revisit it, put it back.
Paranormal experience? Well, I got to hear about this.
I know that's a whole nother talk show, right? Yeah, I've been blessed to be able to see spirits since I was 5 years old. So experiencing them in different ways, and it's interesting too in the different countries that I've been in how they express themselves. So I'm able to use some of those actual experiences in my books. So it's cool.
That is cool. Oh, everybody is going to read you. That's amazing.
Well, I hope so. But more about
Well,
you. So
yeah,
tell me, Cami, have you
paranormal
always
is
wanted
really
to be
big
a?
right now.
I'm sorry.
Paranormal is really big right now. So
Ah, it is my realm. I love paranormal, and sometimes I think, I'm just going to go check into the fifth dimension right now. I'll be right back and grab some information. What did I grab?
okay, sorry, you had a question. Go ahead.
Ah, yes. Well, I was thinking about you and your seven brothers and hiding out because I have three brothers, and yes, I try to hide from them too as well because they're constantly stealing your piggy bank and doing other terrible things like farting on you and running away and think that's, incredibly funny.
Oh,
Right? So when you were hiding, Cami, and reading your books, did you actually think at that point that you wanted to be a writer someday?
that was a good question. I think I always entertained the idea, but I didn't really have a goal to be published. It was really more of a me thing.
Hmm.
And so I never stopped writing stories. They were always going on in my head. I was always, oh my gosh, this would make such a great book. But I'm so busy doing my other non-author things that I just didn't ever think that I would have time to. So when I was really motivated by my daughter to get it out, I really did write it pretty quickly. Um, so it took me only about 18 months to get the first one done. And that was just for fun. It was just playing. I wasn't giving myself a deadline or anything.
Hmm.
And the second one took less than that. And I think that I had just finished the second one. No, it was a little bit after. It was a little bit after I'd finished the second one when my husband proposed that we get them published. So did I ever actually, was I seeking to be an author? Eh, no.
No, just kind of
No,
happened.
I think
It
a part of me
evolved.
was, right? A part of me always was, because like I said, I never stopped writing stories. They were
Mhm.
there.
Yeah. So it organically evolved throughout your life. Yeah.
It really did. It really did. And it came in a time in my life where my not only my daughter really needed it, but I think I did too.
Ah,
I
sure.
needed something to kind of like, okay, my babies are all grown up. What do I do now? Kind of
I think
thing.
writing's very cathartic, isn't it?
Oh, so much. You
Hmm.
can really, really express yourself and find out through your characters what you are deeply thinking and how you respond to certain situations and
Oh, absolutely. And
how you
Cami, it's so
empathy.
admirable that the whole process of creating the first earth to share with your daughter and going through those motions and then to take it the next step to actually mentor her to write and become a writer herself. How did that evolve for you mentoring her to write? Was it just from the book she learned, or I mean, if you were to give some of our, 'cause a lot of my students like to watch the videos and listen to the authors and their stories. So if there's a somebody who wants to write, since that they want to be a writer, what's some kind of advice that you would give to a young person that wants to be a writer?
Well, everybody has their own way of writing. So what works for me won't necessarily work for other people. But one thing that got my daughter and I going is that a really important part of her treatment to help her feel decent was to walk. And she did not want to walk because she had no energy and no strength. And it was really hard for her. So I would take her for these walks and we would talk about the book. So having that sounding board, someone to share the story with, for me and for her, made a really big difference. You don't have to have somebody, but if you can talk through, you always find that, dang it, I've written myself into a corner and I don't know how to get out of it thing, right? If you
Yeah.
find somebody that has the same vision as you, someone to kind of pull you out of those corners and offer a few suggestions and make it a relationship building thing, that made a big difference for me. I really liked that. But for young authors, I would highly encourage you to take notes. I can't tell you how many times I've had to go back to an old manuscript and say, oh my gosh, what color was Temnon's eyes?
Need more adjectives?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Take notes, make a timeline. It
Yeah,
really,
timeline, story plot. Very high. Yeah, I teach it all the time, but I don't do it myself. I should.
I know it's there. It's in the back of your head. I have a timeline. It's just not written down.
Right. It's in here. I need to get it out. I
Exactly.
kind of have a little crock pot of ideas. So when I traveled Europe for 6 months, I did like a workcation and I traveled and would stay in these places in exchange for my room and board. I would do like 3 or 4 hours of work on whatever project they needed. And as I
Oh,
was traveling, I came across some really interesting characters. So I would just, take a dictation and write down, the personality of these different people. And then I find from that crock pot, as I call it, I can
mhm.
draw out these different personalities and scenarios to add in. Do you do that? Something like that?
I do now that you mention it. I don't know why I didn't think of it. I have a creativity notebook and I have sections in the notebook. I've got like appearance. So I write down interesting things about people. Like my daughter has a streak in her hair. She was born with it. She's got brown hair, but she's got this blonde streak right
Oh,
here.
cool. It's cool.
Isn't that a fun thing, right? So
I
that's
love it.
something unique that I can use as a character. But I also have habits if I come across somebody that's got a weird little, I don't know, a tick or a manner of speaking or a strange hobby or things like that, I'll write down those little things in there, and then I'll write down, I don't know about you, but because I write YA for young adults, I have to be really careful about my cursing. And so I have
Yes.
a non-swearing expletives section.
Mono and bisyllabic words. No, no.
And so when you're writing, coming up with an expletive that isn't a swear word is a real challenge.
Yeah.
So if I hear a good one, I'll write it down.
Because they pick it up really quickly too. I know even in the classroom when I say, holy smokes,
Yeah,
clean that up fast, because they'll pick it up, right?
yeah, they pick it up quick.
And they're impressionable, so having a good message and they can sniff out when you're trying to teach them too, can't they?
They
When you're trying to
can.
teach them.
Well, each of my book has a lesson that Agnes learns.
Yeah.
And the first one, she hates herself because she's got these scars, and she doesn't go to school. She does homeschooling because she couldn't stand people staring at her all the time. So she had very few really meaningful relationships. I did talk to a burn victim about this just to make sure, sensitivity wise, and he told me something that was really interesting. He said, because you get rejected so often, as soon as you find someone who accepts you wholeheartedly for who you are, you cling to that person and you are forever loyal. And I thought that was really interesting and poignant. So I wrote that in my book, but the most important lesson in that book is Agnes's relationship to herself and how she had to realize that she was a worthwhile person no matter what her face looked like.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that. And that's the power of being a reader as well as a writer, is that you can take away from, usually every book has a message, right? It's not just out to entertain, but there is some kind of message that the hero or the protagonist learns. So,
Right.
especially when we are writing for, I'm middle grade mostly, and you're being a YA author, they're so influenced at this age that we can guide them with our adventures. And like your daughter, she found courage through the
Mhm.
character that was formulated after her to be able
Right.
to conquer her life. And
Hmm.
I think that's just amazing, that the power of that is just phenomenal. Bravo. Wow.
Thanks. It's kind of the lessons I wish I could teach every child everywhere,
Mhm.
you know?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I try really hard not to make it, you know, I'm not shoving it down their face. This is my character discovering it for herself through
Mhm.
her own adventures. And it's really subtle, but it's there. It's definitely there.
So, book 5 is where in the process right now? Is it
Um,
editing or wrapping up?
no, no, it's not in editing. I'm still writing it.
Aha. Yeah.
Um, I was supposed to have it done before Christmas, and my oldest daughter decided that she was going to finish up a bachelor's degree, and so she asked me to babysit my little grandson.
Oh,
Of course, I was thrilled to do it, but having a 1-year-old run around my house really cut down on my writing time because you cannot take your eyes off those kids for a second.
no.
So she adjusted her schedule so that now I have writing time again. I'm a little over halfway done, but it's all written out. I just have to make my fingers fly and get those words on the page.
Life is what happens when you made other plans, right? That's okay, because being with your grandchildren, I have a 6-month-old grandson. And, when the kids ask me to come, hey, mom, can you come watch Logan so we can like have a little couples time getaway? It's like, sure. And I find that I don't want to take my eyes off of him. I want to see every little present moment. I even call it his little toddler's crib bed and we look at the mobile together, and it's like I
Aw,
don't want to
cute.
miss a thing.
That's sweet. That's so cute.
So
Um,
cute.
I think I was better at watching these little kids when I was a mom than when I'm a grandma.
Ah, really? Maybe because you have so much on your mind?
I think as a grandma, he comes to my house and my house isn't baby proofed, So I have plants and breakable things and stairs, things like
I
that.
have one room you can be in.
He does. He has a little toy room, and I'll go in there and sit. Unfortunately, the toy room is not where my computer is, and I might just have to buy myself a laptop so that I can fix that. I don't have one right now, but maybe that's the solution.
There you go. Yeah. So it's a good excuse to get yourself a new laptop, huh? I think your
Business
husband will buy
issues,
into
right?
that theory.
Oh, he's a tech guy, so he probably will.
Yeah, you will. Definitely. So, what is one parting little blurb that you would like to leave with our listeners about your books or tips that you might want to give our young listeners? What's something, words of wisdom you'd like to leave?
Young listeners, read everything you can get your hands on. Because if you are going to be an author, that is the number one thing that is going to make you a good author. The stories that you have in your head are fantastic, but if you can read and read and read and get that flow of story in your head, then you will be a much more effective author. So yeah, read the Archmage series.
Yes, all of them. And by the time they get done with book 4, they'll be ready for book 5.
Yes, it'll be very, very close. It'll be yes.
No pressure. No, none. I'm on chapter 7 of the second book of Hasten's Peculiar Life, and it's I actually got writer's block, so I had to collaborate with a friend. It's like I'm stuck on this part, and they had some ideas to help kind of move me and get me unstuck. But I just kind of, you know how it is when you just get stuck, writer's block.
Yeah, why you need those sounding boards, right?
Yeah, and
So
another imagination.
yes, another imagination, someone who can look at it from the outside and say, well, here's your answer. It's right here. You've already written it. You just can't see it, right? That's
Yeah,
happened.
and it's so true, Cami. And I will, for one quick little idea, did you ever watch the movie Crash?
I don't think so.
Robert Moresco is one of the writers and the directors, and it's a very sensitive topic about racism and different things, and Sandra Bullock's in it. But I went to one of his workshops, and
Airplane?
what's that?
Was it about an airplane in the
No,
mountains?
it's about where people from different races crash into each other. It's
Oh,
about our differences in culture, but no one wanted to produce it because it was so, you know, controversial. But Sandra
mhm.
Bullock stepped up and she says, "I'll be in that film," and it just started a wave of other really well-known actors and actresses being in it. But however, he said that when you get that block, it's usually the most important part of the story that you will ever write, right? Or the movie. He says there for one particular scene, they stayed up 72 hours, all the writers, nonstop with lots of coffee and other energy drinks and stuff, but they wrote through the most difficult scene, and that is the most prolific scene of the movie. And so it's kind of, I am that way too with my writing. It's like I get to a block, it's like, okay, Elizabeth, just keep writing, just move through this. What's the next thing? What happens next? But it's hard sometimes, right? Because life happens.
I've got another sheet of paper by my computer that says just slap words on the page. You can fix something if it's there. You can't fix what isn't there. So
Ooh,
sometimes
yeah.
just pushing through, you can say that doesn't work, but at least you're making progress. So I wish I had a whole team of writers staying up 72 hours to help me get through some of my stuff.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Have a whole brainstorming team and ideas coming in left and right.
Sure. Like Brandon Sanderson. He has a whole team of people working for him.
Well, I live alone and I have appliances that I talk to, and sometimes they give me feedback like the washer machine. So, hey, how's the spin going? They're not
Oh,
helping.
that's funny.
It's kind of sad.
Um,
Yeah, so I tell people I talk to the pug, to my dog, so it doesn't look like I'm, completely crazy. So I'm having conversations with my appliances.
as long as they don't talk back, I think you're still sane.
Now, if that happens, yeah, that'd be a good book to write. I see a plot happening.
Yeah, paranormal, possessed dishwasher. There you go.
You got the possessed dishwasher.
Maybe it'll wash its own dishes for you.
I love it. Well, Cami, it has been a blast. Cami is going to give me all the details for her books and where you can find them, and anything additional that she would like to add into the detail box below. So, Cami, thank you so much for joining me today. I have loved every single second of this.
It was way fun. You're delightful to talk to. So all of my books can be found on Amazon. All you have to do is Google Cami Murdock Jensen and Arch Mage Series, and they will all pop up. They are available in paperback, hardback, but most of our sales are on that wonderful Kindle Unlimited, where you can just get whatever you want at any time.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. Any audiobooks?
My daughter that Agnes is based on is she's a delightful little actress and a singer too, and she's currently working on my audiobooks. So
Perfect, because audios are really big right now. So good. Yes, we look forward to that.
great, awesome.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Cami. Take good care of yourself and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, and good luck with those appliances and your pug.
Yes, I'm gonna wash dishes by hand, I think.
That's care.
Take care, Cami. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.